Griffin the Griffin by BlackWing. Chapter 63. Letting Go. Well, we are in the grove proper. Should we find the herb now?
Yes. Notice how there's a faint glow in the moonlight? If they are mature, then they have the glow. Let's find a patch so we can harvest it.
We walked through the moonlit forest slowly. It's hard to comprehend its beauty. The artisans of Canterlot themselves could not recreate something of this level. It's like walking in a forest, except instead of air, it's Celestia's mane. Small glowing bugs hung in the air, dragonflies flitting around. As I stepped on a branch, it cracked, and 1,000 lunar moths opened their wings, glowing pale green in the reflection of the light. The bloom was nearly blinding. I began stumbling about and collided with a tree.
I thought I said watch where you walk. Don't move,
the cat hissed. I held perfectly still, eyes closed, and felt a strange sensation fall over me, like the gentle touch of feathers.
Don't move.
Selma's voice was now a mere whisper. I cautiously opened one eye, and through my squint saw a massive moose, as tall as a tree, much like the smaller ones surrounding us. I gulped. It ran its feathery fingers over me, trying to make a sense of me.
It tickles.
I tried to whisper and hold it in, but it was too much, and I fell over giggling. My laughter stopped dead when it opened its wings fully, then revealed a proboscis with a wicked barb at the end of it, slowly snaking towards me. Its purpose suddenly became clear in my mind. Shite! I lifted my fake front hoof up and sprayed it with the water from the pool I had sucked up. It gave an extremely loud hiss, then recoiled in what seemed to be pain before flying off. Its wings battered and buffeted me as it tried to get away, and I gave it another spray from the wide-angle nozzle on my limb. It screeched and then failed and flew up into the air. I got stuck on the dome of the web and began to struggle in futility. To my horror, a truly massive spider, much similar to what Griffin had described in his adventures in the temple, came into view. As it seems, the webs are not invisible because they are seen, and they are actually invisible made by deflecting light. By making a cocoon around themselves, they deflect all light away from themselves, thus making the Arachnids undetectable. Only when the light hits at a certain angle do the webs deflect it as a visible manner, making them shine. It appears as though the titanic black spider was climbing out of the air itself. The moth thrashed and hissed, right up until the spider buried its fangs into its carcass. It stopped moving, and then equally large arachnid spun it in a web, making it invisible as well, before climbing back into its hiding place. Selma and I both stared wide-eyed at what had occurred, in disbelief. I had driven a titan into its mortal foe, and had therefore slain it. Shall we get the herb and leave this death trap?
Yes, and Sonny, when we get back to the village, and the ship too, you may want to leave out the part about them killing one of their gods. The spider and moth are sacred to the friend. The guardian is held here by the hunger. In time a new guardian will rise, but for the time being, the grove is without one. If the guardian leaves his post and falls to the hunger, those overly superstitious felines will take it as an omen.
And what if the hunger falls to the guardian?
Then the webs will vanish and the moths will devour the village. Ain't no omen, though. It's happened once before. Good thing it was the other way around, huh?
Yep. Let us get the herb and leave this crazy forest. The law of nature here are more complex than one of my machines, and 3 times as crazy. We found a patch where it grew, and I gathered 50 or so mature specimens of the plant. Just as I was getting ready to leave, I tripped on a vine and quickly found myself tangled in it.
Spider vines! Don't move!
She told me about the spider vines before. Basically sentient plants, sensitive vines that wait for something to step on them and then tie them up as they thrash, much like webs. Then a large Venus flytrap-like portion comes forward and eats whatever gets caught. This place is truly a death trap. No wonder the cats use it as a testing ground for coming of age, or for outsiders to become part of the tribe.
Alright, Sonny. Just sit tight. I'll get you out of there.
She walked towards me and started very carefully taking the vines off me, one at a time, and then I saw it. The gaping maw of the plant. She almost had me free.
Selma, behind you!
She whipped around and smacked the plant's mouth with her staff, only for another to come behind her and push her over, and another to wrap itself around her, constricting her. Nine! Forget this, time to do this my way. At the mental command, small circular saws sprang from my wings and began cutting through the remaining vines that held me. Just as I got myself free, I saw the most horrid thing imaginable. 5 of the twisted plants, mouths, one biting each of her limbs and one in the old cat's head, literally ripped her to pieces, and much on the parts they had, splatting her blood on my face. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9! I sprang forward, launching fireworks at the inferno plants, the rockets colliding and blowing them up. Then I brought forth an oil-blazed flamethrower, and burned the damn vines to ash, all the while they thrashed and lashed, trying to strike at me. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9! Tears pouring from my eyes as dozens of saws, cutters, torches, and other such tools sprang from my mechanical extremities and slashed, burned, cut, stabbed, and ripped through the more of the vines. I had never felt so much anger and hatred all my life, and towards the plant no less. I followed the shredded vines to the roots and spread them with the blackening slick, causing the entire forest to shudder and screech as the plants finally died. I collapsed, laying there, breathing hard as I exhausted myself, as well as most of my arsenal. Just like that, Selma was dead, and all because of my idiocy and bumbling. I should have just melted those vines to begin with. To totter with tradition. I ran to the moat, and instead of taking the other way, I brought my flamethrowers forward and burned through the webs all my way as I flew out. The flames began to spread, quickly consuming the entire dome, as well as the saw head called gods. Flaming chunks of rimming kale, but pitted out before they reached the ground, so the herbs in the grove itself would be fine. I don't give a damn about the wind. I kept flying. A second wind brought my adrenaline, and I met the timber wolf I had seen before. Just wanted to leave this blasted place. Out of my way! I folded the metal feathers out of my wings together, making blades. The first one caught in its teeth, the second slicing its head clean off. Running through them into the natural shape, my left metal wing was now deformed from the bite. Ah! I was no longer a human void, I was an animal. What had taken almost an entire day to enter, I took 10 minutes to leave, fighting my way out. I didn't even bother stopping at the village, but I had to pass through it, and was stopped as I did. What did you do? Your first gods are dead. The hunger keeps the guardian there in the prison, and the guardian attracts the hunger, keeping it from the village. Neither are necessary, with both gone. The little ones will eventually grow to replace them, and the muck still keeps the rest bound within. All that I have done is temporary. Now out of my way! You have slain them. Then we are free to enter the grove as we wish? Suddenly cheers erupted from the village. I thought they would be upset with me, but as it seems, they revered them as gods, not for respect but for fear. So they can enter the grove whenever they want, and they don't have to worry about some massive spiders or moss. Go ahead, celebrate. I don't care. They wanted to throw a party in my honor. Bah! I'm leaving this damn place for good. I got the herbs and I'm not coming back. Gearman! What happened? Where's Selma? Griffin asked me as he flew down from a cloud. Apparently he had been spying. I don't care. Before I could say anything though, I collapsed. Damn, Gear. You're fucked up. I saw the mecha pony collapse in my arms. He had cuts, scrapes, nicks, and bruises all over him. His left wing was torn and mangled, and his right had a big dent in it. I'm not sure how he managed to fly himself here with the mechanical wings in that condition. There were loose springs popping out of them, and while I carried him back to the ship, a couple gears fell to the jungle below. All the while he slept, he had tears in his eyes. Dad? Furnace asked tentatively. Nadine moved in his backpack and took notice of the herbs, then brought them down to her alchemy station, bringing up some potions and salves to treat his wounds and possible infections. It was a whole 2 days before he woke up. Gizzy, what happened? Cable asked, full of worry. I'm far too old for this. Yo, Gear. We're all wondering, where's Selma and just what the hell happened to you? You look like you've been put through a supersized can opener. He recounted his tale about how everything went, well, until he, in his clumsiness, fell into a pit of spider vines and Selma died trying to get him out of it. Then how he went on a rampage and found his way out of the forest. The Vren wanted to celebrate the God Slayer and how he basically told them to go fuck themselves. Nadine was in shock that he had caused the death of the two most feared creatures in the Vren lore, and Maria was bawling over the loss of her mentor. Cable and Furnace were just trying to comfort him. After all, he'd been through a huge ordeal. We'll have a memorial service for her. In the meantime, Gearman, you've proven you've got the guts, and are fucking crazy enough to be a part of the crew. Myself, Etch, Growl, Nadine, Shimmer, Trixie, and Gilda all held out our necklaces forward to show them to him, and I tossed the 8th and final one at him. His eyes were wide in shock. Welcome to the crew. Back in my room, I slammed my fist on the desk. Damn it all to hell! Griff, calm down, Gilda begged. That's two members of this family that are dead! Fuck! I began pacing around, screaming obscenities. She dove at me, knocking me to the ground, and slapped me. I snapped out of it, and she saw tears in my eyes again. It feels like the start. The start of what? Losing everything. All over again, I feel like I'm starting to lose everyone. And then I'll be alone. I hung my head, and she wrapped her arms around me, burying her head in my chest and looking up into my eyes. You didn't expect it to be easy, did you? She asked. It never is. We're at war, Griff. There is going to be casualties. People die. It happens. And while we can try to prevent it, we can't do everything. Sometimes, life just hates you. You and I know that better than anyone. But that's what's horrible about it. Now that I have people I care about, losing them hurts more than if I never had anyone to begin with. Then do you wish you never met us? Would you trade it this way? Not for the world. Then you need to learn to let go. We are gathered here together today to mourn the passing of Selma, the Elder. She held a special place in all of our hearts. We are a family, and she was like a cranky old grandma that gets to everyone's nerves. But we loved her anyway, because when we needed her, she was there. There was a small bit of laughter. If anyone would like to say something, please come forward. Tierce was the first to step up. I know the two of us never got along. We had different styles, but she led her people with a strength and dignity in the absence of a chief. She knew what she had to do, and then she'd do it. She was strong, and while I never said this to her while she was alive, I should have. Selma, I've always held you in the highest esteem, for the way you led the Lemko, especially through the harsh times. He stepped down, and Maria stepped up. She was like a grandmother to me. She stayed by me even when I was being stubborn, and helped me find my own special way to help the crew. She would often tell stories about when she was just a kitten, and stories of the jungle, like the rock attacks, the great slithen, and even food recipes. I'll miss her. Mario wept for a moment before stepping down. Several of the warrior cats came up and spoke of her. Like when they were little, how'd she'd treat their wounds when they fell out of a tree and things like that. And then Nadine stepped up. Not many outsiders of our tribe have had the honor to enter the sacred grove, and fewer still have made it out alive. The fact that she, from a tribe of warriors, befriended our people and was trusted enough by them to enter, and had the skill and foresight to make it back out alive, is a testament to her wisdom. Her passing is a burden to us all. Nadine stepped down, and finally, Gearman took the stand, and with an unmatchable look of sorrow on his face. Before we entered the grove, I was spiteful and hesitant to listen. I thought I knew everything because I was a master of mine element. But as soon as I was taken out of my comfort zone, I became as helpless as a newborn foe. Even though I was stubborn and pig-headed, she stood by me. I was the only one who could enter the grove to get herb and save my life. And save my wife. And she was kind enough to guide me, even though I acted like a mule. I finally came to appreciate what she was doing for me, and then I came ensnared. She released me from the trap, but in doing so, fell to it herself. She is dead because I am a bumbling idiot. I do not deserve to be a part of this crew." He then stepped down. I took the stand again. "Gehrman, you dumbass, we're all idiots. Every last one of us. But 2 heads are better than this one, so 40 or so ought to be alright. The very fact that you accept that you don't deserve to be this part of this crew qualifies you to be. Rather than hiding in a hole and crying about what could have been instead, let's honor her sacrifice. She died so that you and your wife could live. Don't throw it away, but instead, with your every breath, hold her in reverence. Let us never forget what she gave to us, nor forget any of those who fall, but live and pass in their memory. So long as we hold them to our hearts, they are never really gone. Now let us salute those who have died today, and never forget!" The cat stood at attention before heading below the decks, and we let off an empty full broadside in salute of the granny. Dear Princess Celestia, today the value of life has become all the more apparent. The oldest among us died so that the young may live. She gave her life willingly to protect, and we ask that you honor Selma of the Lemco for her bravery in the face of adversity. We're headed to Ponyville to continue our tour, and then we'll head east of the colony for the naming ceremony. Then, finally, Canterlot for the Grand Galloping Gala. Send us some tickets, will you? Maybe a group pass? Or quite a lot of us. As for the question, watching those around you mature, grow old, pass away, while you still live on, knowing that all those who you care about will one day die, and you'll be all alone again, does it hurt? Sincerely, Griffin the Griffin. I let a single tear stain the page before I rolled it up and sent it off. We set sail for Ponyville, and I went to go check up on Maria. She'd been in her room crying for hours, and Nadine comforting her. Selma's death was particularly hard on her and Gehrman. He tried burying himself in his work and trying to help himself get over it by immersing him in something he knows. After all, his gear was trashed. He needed to make himself a brand new set. Do I wear socks? Celestia looked over at Luna, who was wearing fuzzy blue leg warmers. I can't say that I have. Luna likes them, though. I'm also glad she got another friendship report. And may Selma rest in peace. Celestia let a tear of her own fall. It was never nice hearing about death, and considering they're like a family, she knows all too well what they feel. Thoughts of Twilight and her friends passed through her mind. The purple filly Twilight bouncing with joy, the brash Rainbow Dash, the hard-working Applejack, the kind Fluttershy, the generous Rarity, the excitable Pinkie Pie. Knowing that one day all of them would grow old and finally pass on, the ever-composed and regal Alicorn felt a pang in her heart, which Philomena, sensing her distress, flew over and began to comfort her. Does it hurt? What a stupid question. Of course it does. In an endless life, that is one thing I will never get used to, no matter how many times it happens.